Welcome back. Now we're going to make something even more useful than the table, which is a chart, so that we can visualize the data because humans are amazing at visualizing. With your cursor anywhere in the table, click Insert, Pivot Chart. And so Excel usually suggests column, which is the right kind of chart if you've got category data, like for emissions inventories or two different sites, for example. But in this case, a line chart, because this is minute by minute data, makes sense. It's important to point out one tricky thing about pivot charts. So you can see that we have the data just by day, just 4 days, which means that we only have 4 points on the chart, one for the complete average of PM 2.5 and the average of AQI for each day. Now, if we clicked on the plus sign next to one of the days, the pivot table expands and that automatically expands the chart. But what you need to notice is it's no longer linear. So we've just expanded the 12th, but the other days are just still showing as a single point. If you click in the table itself and expand the days, you'll see an hour by hour average value both in the chart and in the table. And you can expand the chart so that you can see the data points more clearly just by clicking and dragging on one of the corners when it's selected. If you want to collapse the days back down to hours, you right click. And when you right click, the drop down menu to expand collapse will appear, collapse the entire field, and that takes it back down to days. If you wanted to expand it again or to group by different increment of time, right click and go to group. And you'll see that there are options for months, quarters, and years, which would make sense if we didn't just have 4 days worth of data. And there's even options for seconds, like if you had millisecond data. But Excel is smart enough to suggest what makes sense in this case. You can even set up a different grouping based upon dates that you specify, as well as grouping by number of days. If you wanted to group it by number of days, you could specify more than 1 day at a time. If you want to just take it to the grouping by days, you can specify that in this panel. And if you wanted to change and say, we want it grouped just by minutes, for example, you could say minutes, hours, and now it takes it down to the minute. So Excel's like, yeah, you want the whole thing, here it is. And it expands in the table as well, which makes a huge table. You can always expand the chart by clicking on the edges of it and dragging it. So it's still pretty hard to read. So I am going to collapse it back down again by right clicking and then going down to expand collapse and then collapse entire field. And that takes it down to the hours. I still don't really like that for now. I just want to show by day, right click again, and then expand collapse, and then collapse entire field to get back down to the hour.